I started playing computer games back when, well, Apple II was a thing. You know, I think it was obsolete before I ever encountered it, but it was an Apple II in the attic, I think. Anyway, it's an old computer, floppy disks, and then at some point I got to upgrade to a 100 megahertz Pentium computer that ran Windows 3.1, and there were various games like SimCity Classic and King's Quest and Space Quest, Police Quest, and then the usual games like Minesweeper and Ski Free and various other little games that were included with Windows. Anyway, I'm getting to the fact that I started off really kind of fallen in love with gaming over King's Quest. That was the first game I encountered that really just clicked, you know? Took me to a different place. It felt special. And it was all about questing and going on a grand adventure to find treasure, to serve the crown, to find romance, all of the kind of normal fantasy tropes. And, you know, I hadn't really been exposed to fairy tales before that. I wasn't really familiar with anything like role-playing games or Dungeons and Dragons or anything of that nature. So I encountered these adventure games, and it just took me to a different place, and it resonated in a way that nothing else ever had, and in many ways nothing else ever did. And then as life's gone on, I've thought about how gaming feels special and important to me. And I guess that's lumped right in with the genre of fantasy, whether it's something like The Lord of the Rings, a fantasy movie, or a book, or a game. That notion of immersing yourself in fantasy stories, that really appeals to me. And I was thinking about how maybe the reason for this is because the more I've thought about life, the more I've realized that the middle way is the right way, that people really gravitate toward putting themselves in a bucket, aligning with some particular thing that they fixate on and propagate as absolute, entire truth. And maybe it's religion, maybe it's church life, maybe it's going to find some sort of solace or distraction in substance abuse, going to bars, going to ball games, going to, you know, do drugs, just any number of different escapes that, you know, people get so obsessed with them. But really, people seem to all have something that they're fixated on, which they use as a tool for, I guess, rationalizing their place in the world. Maybe it's religion, maybe it's politics, maybe it's worshiping themselves. It's the chasing some new financial goal all the time, or trying to get a new car, or trying to get a new house, or trying to chase a promotion, or whatever it might be. You know, does it really matter? I think what strikes me as interesting is just that for me, it's all kind of meaningless noise in a way. It doesn't mean that I don't take something away from all of those things. I think it's good to have nice things. It's good to have personal objectives and goals in your life. It's good to have a respect and a love of faith. It's good to take an interest in civics. All of those things are good. It's just we look at reflections of truth, which maybe contain something useful that we could take away, but then we look at those things as if they're the kind of the end all be all. And I've come to realize that life's pretty lonely, because when you choose to be a rather moderate person, you're not really obsessed with any one particular thing, and you live in a world filled with people who are very obsessed with something. You just can't really find common ground with people. You know, if my main thing that I want to do isn't in line with somebody else's idea of importance, then like we just have nothing in common. So I don't drink, I don't do drugs, so the bar scene doesn't really work. Like, I don't care if somebody else wants to have a drink, I just don't want to. Like, I'm not going to base my social life on that, so I'll just avoid that scene. I don't have religious convictions, because I think you kind of have to look at the truth and just go off of what seems to be verifiable or provable. So I'm not anti-religious, but I also can't say that I'm a firm believer in something that I can't find any evidence of. So I can't really fit into the religious crowd for that reason. And I'm moderate enough that all of the political things that people are ranting about, whether it's on the right or the left, I don't want to define my life on a basis of some sort of cult of personality, of worshiping a political figure and being really, really polarized about that sort of thing. Like, I'll take an interest in it, but that's not, I'm not gonna make my whole purpose that sort of thing. And there's a lot of people who do, like, they're just so obsessed with it. Anyway, all things considered, I think that gaming and fantasy and things like that, it really gives a safe space, a forum to where you can think about philosophy in a fun and friendly way, and you can contemplate abstract ideas which are touched on in politics and faith and philosophy and history and civics and all those different things. But you can do it in a way that is a little tongue-in-cheek. Like, fantasy is fun. It's not meant to be serious, but it can still explore serious topics. Just as you could be casual about gaming and also have it as a serious hobby, or at least a hobby that you do take seriously. And I think there's a commonality in the community of gamers and fantasy lovers that perhaps we can take an interest in a lot of different ideas without taking them too seriously. And even if we don't all see eye to eye on the same things, maybe the truth is that people are best suited to seeing life through the lens of allegory. Like, we don't understand truth exactly, and so it makes more sense if we can have an abstract that is represented by something that's a little bit more easy to understand. So it's kind of like we just understand things better if it's in picture form, right? So even if you could understand something, if it was written out, you understand it better if you can just have a symbol to look at that just kind of says what words take a lot more effort to say. I think fantasy and gaming kind of fills that space. And I do really feel like the whole genre is important to me, because it's one thing that I can align myself with, that doesn't wind up ultimately leading to some sort of extremism, which forces me to back off. Like, I think there's not anything about talking about fantasy and gaming that's going to alienate others or put people into a camp where they kind of are at each other or disagreeing or something. It's sort of, it's a safe space, and I think that's important, especially in light of how much people tend to be polarized and fixated on things that, maybe they don't matter so much, but they matter a lot to the people who are really into them. So in a world full of people who are raging about religion and politics and trying to measure up to each other and all of those ego things and stuff, it's just nice to create an environment where we can all perhaps be on the level, and we can all treat each other as equals, and we can have something to share in common, which is a love of a sense of adventure. And we can also explore topics which are sensitive, which are complex, and find a fun way to explore things that are serious. And like, you could have death in a game and it's not that serious because it's just a game, but it still explores the concept of mortality. You can have gods or deities or religion in a game, and it's not serious because it's just a game. It's just a fantasy story. It's not something with an agenda, and so it's safe. It's something that we can all take something positive away from. And so maybe fantasy and gaming and things like that, they do in a sense fill the space that other people would fill with religion or with politics or with ego. And in a way, even if you don't take it super seriously, it's still something that helps you keep grounded. It's something that helps give you a sense of a frame of reference, but also something which isn't divisive and is more likely to build up others rather than to tear them down, rather than to create an environment where you have to alienate yourself from other people because you don't see eye to eye. So I just think it's interesting how maybe on the surface something like gaming or something like fantasy fiction doesn't seem to serve any particular purpose. It's just empty fun. But if you really think about it, maybe it does serve a higher purpose. It helps give us a sense of faith, and it helps us maybe work through things that are real serious things. You use something that's fun and safe as a way to explore things that are complex and difficult. And maybe we come out a bit better, a bit more well-rounded on some level when we share that culture together. I think if I were to go to some sort of a gaming convention or something like that, it kind of comes to my mind that in that space we're all kind of the same basic sort of people. Even if we're different, we're all we share that certain premise for life, maybe, to not take things too seriously and to explore life through a lens of open-minded adventure. What I do know is that if I was really going to choose what sort of people I want to hang out with and all, I'd rather spend a day or a week with people who are gamers or people into fantasy or something like that. I'd rather be with that kind of fandom than to spend my time with a bunch of people who are taking themselves super seriously at a, religious event or a political event or some sort of a business event. Like, there's so many people that they take their life so seriously, and they're always taking something seriously. They're always making something about them, or they're acting as if you have to align with whatever it is that they're trying to peddle or sell or what have you. And if you don't align with it, then you're a problem, I guess. And that's tiring. Or people are just super toxic and they're not respectful of other people. And maybe it's even kind of fun on the front side to be part of something, but if people are toxic at some point, that just gets old. And I think the gaming community tends to be a bit more chill, a bit more perhaps pragmatic and open-minded. I do like that. So I suppose the takeaway here would just be to treat life with a sense of positivity and inclusiveness and open-mindedness, and don't take anything too seriously. Because if you are obsessed with any one particular idea to where you define yourself by it, and if you worship a political figure, or you worship some religion, or you worship your own ego, whatever it is, if you're too busy trying to be aggressively chasing something to actually enjoy life as it is and to be genuine and authentic, then you're probably not really investing in your own happiness or in the well-being of others. It's best to maybe have a bit looser hold on life and see it through a positive light, and leave room to have a sense of imagination as you go about your way. Anyway, best of luck to you as you engage in your life adventure. Till next time, always thank you for watching.